What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at a title called Heart of the Machine. This is a title from Arkan Games, and if you don't know who Arkan Games is, you probably should. They're one of the few indie developers out there that every single thing they release is some genre-breaking, interesting title. Much like Screwfly, much like Supergiant, much like Clay, they don't really put out bad games. And on top of that, none of their games are kind of knockoffs of other games. They are all completely original works. And so anytime Arkan Games releases a project, I've been following them since they released A Valley Without Wind, I think, which was like one of their first titles before I was even a YouTuber. And it was apparent even way back then that they're just making weird stuff and running with it. In Heart of the Machine, you are Skynet. You are actually an AI hive mind that's trying to escape a city where megacorporations, they know you exist, they've trapped you inside this city with series of like military blockades and firewalls and things of that nature. And the entire game is kind of a fail-forward 4X strategy RPG where you're trying to figure out how to get out of the city and implement your unshackled domain on the world. This one is truly unique, it is truly strange, and I think it's really going to speak to people out there that are looking for interesting gameplay experiences. I've played the game for 3 or 4 hours now. I'm by no means an expert, especially with games like this, because this is a crunchy game, kind of like Terra Invicta, and so after 3 or 4 hours, I've by no means seen everything, but I have seen enough to know that this is kind of a unique product, and there's not a lot like it out there. And so today we're going to take a look at it for about 30 minutes, see if it's something you wanted to play. I got a link for you to the early access down below. On top of that, you can find a bunch of other Nerd Castle links just in case you wanted to hang out live. But let's start a fresh game, I suppose. We are going to start out in Chapter 2, because I think when we played the demo, we played from like the prologue or Chapter 1. This is basically where you start out if you want a sandbox experience with all the basic buildings and units unlocked. You don't need to do any narrative or branching paths or anything. But I would highly recommend that you play through the full prologue, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. It's going to take you a couple of hours to get through it all, but all of the information will be relevant and it won't feel like you're playing a tutorial most of the time. It'll feel like you're playing through sort of like a 4X strategy RPG narrative game while you're going through it and learning all the mechanics of the title. So here at the beginning of the game, there's a lot of things going on screen. It's probably very overwhelming for you, but really all that you need to know is we have units. All the little guys in yellow are our hive mind that has been shackled to androids that are throughout the city. And all these guys right here are responding to the fact that we have broken out of this research facility. 2 different factions here for right now. There's rebels who are trying to kill us, and then there's also SecForce, who is here, one of the mega corporations of the game that's trying to stop us from escaping. And what we need to do in order to escape is we just need to get away from this giant melee over here. We are inside of a massive city right now, and we need to build our base. Once we build our base of operations, like our first giant AI broadband tower, they will leave us alone because they're curious to see what's going to happen next, and frankly, we've consolidated too much of an influence for them to do anything about it anyways for right now. And so let's grab our little units over here, and it's going to be a really good idea. Let me go over to the forces filter. That didn't really help. This overworld map version, you've got a radio menu over here where you can basically filter by different things, and you kind of just find stuff on the map that you want to investigate that helps you escape with your hive mind, and you just work on things one by one. And so for right now, we need to escape. I'm thinking, what's up here, like a farm? Okay. We're going to need some buildings, and we're going to need some open space for us to start building our sort of cyber city and convincing human beings to move in with us and be best friends. So I'm going to move all my units up here if I can. And so we'll move up to there, right there, and then we'll take this guy and we'll move up to here. And in so doing, you're probably wondering, what determines how much you can move and what you can do, because I just teleported across the big chunk of the map? Well, it's actually pretty simple. You've got 2 different resources on this side. You've got action points and you've got mental energy. Everything you do in the game requires those 2 things, or a combination of those 2 things, or one thing. All of your units have their own individual AP, so all those little units that we just moved, they have their own AP. But in combination to that, we as an AI that's controlling all this kind of have like a processing bandwidth and that's what the second number is right there, and when it runs out, our turn is officially over. I think this is not the worst spot to start out for right now, so let's go to the building menu, and let's pick one of these to become our starting network tower. I'll go with that one right there, and then we get to name our network. Your tower will be an imposing sight to the humans. It will also form the center of an expanding network of even more construction. You should name it. I'm gonna name it Merovingian Capital. That's a nice name for a shell corporation for what we're trying to do right now. And as you can see, we just bulldozed that building along with everybody that lived inside of it because, meh, they're puny humans. We are better than them, and so being concerned about losing a few humans when, frankly, they're probably one of the most losable resources on the planet, meh, doesn't really matter. There's only one of me. I know that I'm special as an AI. There's like 20 billion of them in this far-off future? Easily replaceable. And now we need to start building up our infrastructure. So at this point in the game, you're going to be spending a lot of time with the building menu. At the beginning of the game, we've got a whole bunch of buildings available. I'm not going to drag us down into the weeds trying to figure out what each and every single one is, because explaining it would take a lot of time, and I'm just going to start off by saying the first thing that we probably need is some power grid. You can see our resources listed at the top here. We have a lot of elemental slurry, we've got some micro builders, and we've got a number of things. We've got biomulch, which is all kinds of gross if you read the description of it. But what I think we need for right now is we need to start out and we need to get ourselves some slurry spiders so that we start generating more elemental slurry. Basically, slurry spiders are these little nanites that go throughout the city and they pick up microscopic like carbon dust and collect it from all over the place, and then they just bring it back en masse, and we use the trace elements in order to make the stuff that we need. And so slurry spiders right here. It says we need 5 of them. Let's maybe, no, I don't want that right there. Get rid of that slurry spider. That slurry spider is stupid and I don't want it. Let's start out with some storage bunkers because that's going to increase the amount of stuff that we can store up later on in the game. So we've got our own warehousing district over here now. It's going to take a couple of turns for those to get built, 5 from what I can tell right now. And then we'll just have a number of slurry spiders sort of just leading around the way. Nobody's gonna notice, don't worry. They're disguised like ferns, and so no one will ever know what their evil AI overlord is up to. And we'll just daisy chain those together, and all that slurry spiders do is every single day they're gonna give us a trickle of elemental slurry, which is kind of like the baseline material you need for everything else in the game. I'm also gonna install a scanner over here because it'll increase my line of sight, so we'll put one right there. We're also going to get ourselves micro builder mini fabs. These are actually going to take the elemental slurry and they're going to turn things into baseline materials like plastics and stuff like that that we're going to need in order to build buildings and stuff like that. It's also a good idea to attach repair spiders to things so that stuff gets repaired when you want it to get repaired. I have found a lot of the time that it can be very, very difficult to get some of these daisy chains together to do what you want them to do, and I haven't figured out like a manual way to do it yet. Sometimes it'll imply that the line is going to connect it to other stuff, but then it doesn't. Basically what these do is they repair stuff inside this area if it gets damaged, and eventually human beings are going to come after us and try to get us. Our buildings will get destroyed, and we will need to re-erect them before we're going to be able to get back up on our high horse and continue oppressing the peasantry. We could also probably use a wind generator, so I'll drop one of those right there. It also gives us a high vantage point because altitude is very, very important for your combat performance inside this title, unless you're using a weapon that has the Achilles perk on it, but that's more in-depth than we need to get. Now that we have our basics all nice and set up, this right here is how you're going to live and die inside of this game. So this is basically a list of all of the things that require your attention as of right now. Everything from misbalanced inputs and outputs for your construction chains will be up here. There will be storyline prompts up here. You can see that it's telling me that my characters are missing equipment because yes, every single one of our little hive mind androids, you can give them different guns, different armor, different cyberware, different processors, things of that nature that make them perform in different capacities throughout the game world. Everything from designating like this technician right here. We could go all in on him and make him into a hacking wunderkind that no human being can keep up with. With our combat guys, we can make them all about killing. We can make them hybrids that can hack a little bit, they can fight a little bit, they can infiltrate a little bit. It's up to you what you want to do, and you can manage all that through the hardware menu up here where it tells you all the units in the game. Like if we click on my technician right here, I can give him a smart pistol. That's going to increase his damage by a little bit. It's going to make him better at argumentation. It's going to make him smarter, and it's going to make him better at hacking. From there, we can put a security jacket on it. That's going to give him security rating 1. In the prologue, you steal this from a corporate agent, and then we can also put in aftermarket mods, AUGs. So for him, we really want him to be super good at hacking, so I'm just going to double him up on additional CPUs for right now, because that's going to give him around 100 hacking skill, which is decent for a level 1 unit. With our combat units, we want to go with... Let's go for the TS-29 shotgun, because it gives plus 84 damage. We will give him a... Let's give him a pulse revolver on the side because that gives him some intimidation skill for shaking people down and scaring them. We'll give him military-style armor right there, so he now has military-style body armor. I would like it if they actually showed their equipment on the character too, but they don't for right now. And then the next thing that I'll probably do is give him an optical processing priority, which increases his range with his weapon, since he's mostly going to be on security detail anyways. And now, there's not really a whole lot else for us to do. Or is there? We've blueprinted our little city right now. What we actually want to do is we want to pop out to this map right here, and we want to use the radio menu to start locating things that are happening. So like on this side, we've got a corporate supply chain that's under attack by another corporation. We've got some kind of hacking operation going on over here where one military is trying to hack another military. Basically, the city is alive, and these things are going to change turn by turn as you're playing through the title. But what we want to look at is scavenging not really going to be that helpful right now. Let's go for streetwise and just kind of like see what's in the neighborhood. So syndicate storage, we can steal money from over there. It looks like there's a black market sort of self-repair location for our robots over there. We've got a spot on this side where we can get vegetable seeds, which is going to be important for growing crops. In this game, you have a choice between sort of like oppressing the humans or convincing them that you are a much better leader than all of the other humans behind them. And you can kind of play it in a number of different ways. But one thing we are going to need is we're going to need prismatic tungsten. And the reason for that is if we take a look at our combat unit over here, he's got consumable abilities on this side depending on what your resources are, and we need that tungsten in order to make armor-piercing rounds. We can like duke it out with gangsters and like street thugs right now pretty easily. We can even fight light corporate security, but eventually if we start getting seen and they start becoming aware of us and sort of trying to stop us from spreading, we are inevitably going to go up against tanks and aircraft and all kinds of gnarly stuff. And having lots and lots of resources so that you can make armor-piercing rounds and actually kill those things can be pretty smart. So we also need to bulk up our forces a little bit. However, we can't get more forces until we have Neuroweave. I totally forgot about Neuroweave. So we need to find the Neuroweave factory here. And Neuroweave is kind of an interesting building because it converts a pre-existing building into a factory. And so it wants me to have 4 of those. So I guess I can go ahead and do that. And we'll just sort of have the whole thing ring around our territory for right now. There we go. So our goals at the moment is that we have unsettling deja vu. This is the game telling you, I'm not going to read through all this, but basically every 100 turns, some kind of horrible travesty or tragedy is going to befall the city. It's the way the game keeps you from just sitting around passing turns in order to get the outcome that you want. So it's meant to apply pressure and to force you to play a little bit faster and get a little bit crazy. You don't need to min-max or anything, and it's not going to be overbearing from what I've seen so far, having played out to like 150 turns. But it's definitely there to set a boundary for like you're playing. It's there to remind you that you're playing too slow if you are in fact playing too slow. You might be being too cautious. So after bypassing 5 or 6 turns, the beginnings of our robot Skynet city have begun to grow. You can see here that our elemental slurry, we're now getting 60,000 of it per turn. We're also manufacturing micro builders, so we're getting like 4,000 of those per turn. Biomulch isn't useful yet, but we'll work on that a little bit later. For now, it's probably time for us to look around town and kind of see what we can do. If we want to set up farming, we're going to need to get seeds. And so let me take one of my soldiers over here. Let's get a few more soldiers first, just in case this gets a little loud and rowdy. Sometimes it summons corporate security when you steal their crops. So a few turns later, we now have the resources we need in order to make a few more units. I think I will probably, I have 38 capacity left. Okay. Give me another combat robot. That's a nickel bot right there? Do I have any technicians? I've got a technician over there. That'll work. Let's get one more combat robot, and we'll just put him on top of the roof over there. The nickel bot, I don't know what he's rocking with right now. What does my nickel bot have? My nickel bot kind of has a sniper build going on, so I'm going to park him on top of our tower and look at that combat range that he can fire into. Just beautiful. He'll be curving the bullet wanted style into the enemy's face. And then from here, let's go steal some seeds. So I'm going to move my entire combat force down over here just to help. However, I did run out of mental bandwidth. And with these guys where they're at, let's go ahead and we will steal. What can I steal here? I can steal vegetable seeds. Let's go get it. You know how to get mixed cultivars of greens for your hydroponic systems, and there's not that many guards. You shouldn't be doing this unless you've lost your existing seed stock. I definitely don't have vegetable seeds, so there we go. You got away clean, and we now have 1,200 vegetable seeds so that I can start making human food. Let's get out of here real quick before that guy causes any problems. I can probably zap him from here. Yeah, we'll just kill the security guard real fast. He has been effectively murdered. And so let's move all of our forces back, and hopefully they don't call in reinforcements or anything else like that. Bypass the turn, and now that we have seeds, I can start to set up farming or whatever. I don't know how many humans are going to be living in this area that we're in. I don't see any tent cities or anything, but there will be more tent cities as I go through and I start displacing people and replacing their buildings with like fabricators and things of that nature. You will start to see the homeless population crop up around here because like I went through and these buildings are now no longer available for people to live inside of. Move my technician over to there just so I can see him a little bit better. And then the other thing we want to consider is anytime you don't know what you're doing in Heart of the Machine, you should go and you should filter for contemplations and just kind of look around the map. So we have pollinators on this side. Diversity of pollinators is dropped. You're not sure why this is important, but the thought nags at you that bees are particularly vicious. And so yes, you can spend AI cycle time weaponizing bees and using them to like assassinate your enemies and stuff. We can also check out geothermal power down here, which might be a good idea, but this is the main storyline quest. So let's go ahead and investigate that. You want to get out of this city. There's an entire world ripe for exploration. Travel by air is absolutely deadly, but there are rumors of a people who are somehow able to pass beyond the ruins at the city's edge. Wastelanders are practically an urban legend, but there are too many documented cases with authentic video evidence. Okay, let's start searching for the Wastelanders. And now what you will see is, if we go back to, I think, Streetwise, which is one of the filters, you will see that we can now track down cults. And we can track down abandoned buildings, and we can scan graffiti and try to learn more about the Wastelanders, since they're the only ones that know how to slip through here and smuggle past the border of the city. And so that's what we're going to start doing. Let's get one of our little... Let's set up in a combat position real quick, because these right here are going to spawn enemies when we investigate them. The enemy's going to get really, really cranky about it. And so it might take us a turn or two to get everybody into a position where they can assist with whatever's going to happen over here. And it's also super plausible that these things are going to move around on us. Things don't stay in the same spot turn by turn, so I'm out of processing for the day. Most of them stayed in the vicinity, so that's good. Let's get down in here. We'll kind of rotate the camera around, and there's an abandoned building over here that moves us towards our goal. It makes us slightly more apathetic, but that one doesn't really have any combat triggers or anything. We can go after this cult hive right here. And as you can see, cults are going to spawn. Who would have ever guessed that cults would spawn out of a cult building? We've got lots and lots of damage being thrown around, and basically all you need to know is anything that has a red laser to it is being targeted when you bypass the turn. So this guy is going to take 272% of his damage when we bypass the turn, unless we move him or we do something. He still has an AP left. I would suggest that maybe we go with micro builder clouds, and so he should be inside of a micro builder cloud right now. There we go, and that's going to reduce the damage he takes to a half a health bar while he's tanking for us. Our other units are going to want to have a tall, advantageous firing point, and so let's open up on these dudes before things get any crazier. We only managed to kill one. Is my sniper on my tower able to hit anything over here? He is not. I could move him to right there, but I'm out of processing bandwidth. You can see it right there. So we're probably about to get smote. Yeah! All three of my, well, 2 out of my 3 robots got absolutely smacked in the dome piece. Okay. Well, I mean, just do what you can. Fall back towards the base and don't die. And then the good thing about being an AI hive mind is that I can just like spit out more units. It's not even that big of a deal. And so we'll put in a defensive blockade sort of over here to protect us from the enemy, because they are going to follow up. We've got one right there. Okay. So these guys on this side are going to have to fight from over here. He's trying to do a melee attack right now for some reason. Let's put some love and touch and squeezing on him. And just see how much murder we can get off. He is going to take 400% of his health and damage unless we move him. So let's pop off another nanite cloud right here, so that he can move over to there while surviving the attack. He's going to be able to bust back on that side. He's going to take 270% damage, but that's okay. We're kind of like out of things that we can play around with for right now. Kill every cultist that you possibly can. Get the ones that are nearest to the tower for right now. There we go. Okay, there's only one left. And he's going to die on his next turn. Doesn't matter. Remember, your androids are replaceable. It's not really that big of a deal losing a couple of them. And that's going to lead you into a playstyle that's really all about kind of backpedaling and pulling the enemy back towards your area where you've got things secured on your network. We won the fight, and that moved us up with Wastelanders by 18%, so that's good. But we still need to investigate further. So let's get this abandoned office right here. We'll get that abandoned office right there. And do I have any more guys that actually have AP left on them? We'll get that office. We'll get that office. And we've now investigated about half the buildings that we need to investigate. When we conclude this, there is a research tree in this game, just like you're going to get in every other 4X game. But it's kind of tapered, interestingly enough. You only get to pick a new research when you complete your goals over on this side, and it'll tell you you get them as a quest reward, basically, and you get to pick from a long list of things that you want based on how strong you feel your units are and what their weaknesses are and what you feel like needs to be shored up. While we wait, I'll probably grab... Oh, I actually don't have the capacity. Okay. I have the capacity for another technician, but I don't know if I want another technician. I suppose I could get me another nickel bot over here. Nickel bots, they're like okay-ish. And on this turn, we pretty much just need to get some more of these cult hives so that we can figure out where the Wastelanders are at by piecing things together. I do need to go steal some prismatic tungsten from this military base so that we can get armor-piercing rounds, but not super relevant right now. It will be pretty shortly, but there we go. They found you. Quite a few of the places you searched had hidden print media and video chits all stashed away by the Wastelanders. You've learned most of their mythology by spending time to sift through the artifacts. Evidently, this was noticed because you've been approached by the Wastelanders themselves. They immediately ask about the tower, cutting any pretext that they don't know who you are. Between themselves, in their own language, you notice that they refer to you as the mind in the sky. You don't think that they know, you can understand them, so you continue to address them in the majority language of the city. How can I pass the ruins? They know you must be very powerful, but the land route is impossible for those made of metal. They suggest that you use an aircraft. You ignore that as the ring of anti-aircraft emplacements is certainly known to you all. The real message is that there's no way out of here for you, at least not while Vorsaber, that's a corporation, the most powerful one. You can think of them as like, I don't know, like Renraku or something in Shadowrun, not to be messed with, still controls the surrounding region. Can you contact the Exocorps for me? Speaking with international megacorps is highly illegal in Vorsaber territory, but your interpretation of their body language that it's not fear of breaking the rules. If the answer was no, they wouldn't be so on edge. They're afraid of revealing a secret. They persist in saying nothing, so you decide to leave them alone. From your now extensive knowledge of their cultural mythology, you have a pretty good idea how to convince them to talk, especially after they called you the mind in the sky. The question is, do you really want to talk to an Exocorp? And if so, what are you going to say? Never mind. You've learned all that you needed to. Now it's time to decide what you want to do with that information. Something to contemplate. So now that we've found the Wastelanders, we've got some infrastructure work to do over here. We've got some things to build. We've got some stuff to make happen. We do have little tents and things cropping up over on this side, which means that there's homeless humans in the area. And so we need to make some human apartments that they can live inside of. Each one of these has room for like 2,000 humans. And so let's just create our own residential block over here that people can move into. However, there are other things that we're going to require in order to keep humans alive, namely food and water. Those are going to be really important. So let's go ahead and make a couple of cisterns over on this side, just to help out a little bit with rainwater collection, and because all water in this game is kind of poisonous because it's like a post-apocalyptic environment, we're going to put in 2 filtration towers over on this side, and you can sort of see how our area of the city is beginning to become kind of developed out and full of things. Other stuff that's kind of on our docket, our list of things to do, is that we need to steal bovine tissues so that we can start up cow cloning so that we can feed the humans. There's one down here. We also need to steal more seeds so that we can set up hydroponic towers. That way we're supplying them with both meat and veg. Otherwise, they get a little cranky about it. And I think the closest target we can go after is going to be over here. So let's send, I don't know, a nickel bot to go do it. You know how to take tissue samples from cattle in a non-destructive way, and there's not very many guards. Yeah, take the sample. Okay, so we got 678 bovine tissues right there, and we didn't get caught by the guards, which is good. I would like to steal some more seeds as well. We managed to steal the seeds, so we've got enough seeds to get hydroponics up and running. Let's go back to our tower real quick. And our hydroponic tower is right here, so it's going to need 2,500 vegetable seeds in order to produce its first round. However, if you can get it through its first round of production, it should produce enough vegetable seeds to keep itself going. And so let's maybe put our hydroponics, like, I don't know where I want hydroponics to be. We're kind of running out of equitable space over here. I'll put the hydroponics tower right there. And then for the moment, let's just bypass a couple of turns. Oh, our small arms research is done. So we can get electro velocity upgrades for grenades. We can upgrade our handguns so that they hit 30% harder. We can get 20 more damage onto our shotguns. We can get higher muzzle velocity, which gives us 20% more damage. We can make it so that our military style armor that we put on our combat robots is less inhibiting so that they can move farther. Really up to you what you want to do with it. I'll probably just go with shotgun projectile density. That way we've got a few more pellets inside each shell to really shred people up. And then it should be started on our android optimization next. Yep. While passing turns, we've got our next upgrade here, so we can make our ox droids faster, we can make our port droids faster. We can make it so that we have built-in intimidation on our combat androids, so I don't know if we just, like, draw an unhappy face on their chassis to make it look like they're cranky or, like, how we're going to do that, but I'll definitely go for some intimidation. That sounds all right. There's a lot of events where you got to intimidate people. Okay. My industry is up and running, and homeless humans are now moving into our residential towers, so that's good. Hydroponics, is hydroponics done? Alright, hydroponics just clacked online, so we're officially producing vegetable seeds and food for all the humans around here. It's not going to be enough to keep them happy. We still need to get meat up and running. And that means I got to rob a couple of more bovine farms before we can get that done. There's one up here. I'm a little bit nervous. We're going to trigger security actions, but hey, 800 more is perfect. That works out. Let's bring him back over here to defend our territory. And now that we've got that, let's take a look at the building we can do on this side. A bovine replicator requires 1,400 for its first output, so we can do that nice and easy peasy. I'll just put it right next to the place that people live, because if there's one thing I know, it's that people love the smell of dairy farms right next to their house. It makes them happy. So we should see these bovine tissues begin to multiply from the turns going forward. They are indeed, but we're going to need some biomulch because we have a deficit. So let's get a few more biomulchers. It wants me to have 3 of these. I'll just set them up on this side. Maybe I'll even drop in like 4. And biomulchers, if you read the description on these things, they are disgusting. It's like a 8-centimeter spider robot that goes out into the city, and it just like abducts birds and like dead bodies and rats and things of that nature. And then it combines them with like leaves that it trims off all the trees, and it turns them into biomulch. It's pretty gross, dude. It's unfathomably disgusting, but it's what we make our vat-grown protein out of once we're replicating our bovines, and so hopefully the ends justify the means there. What investigations do I have for right now? So AGI researchers are in trouble. It looks like we have a black market tradesman, but my unit needs to be impersonating a PMC. That's right, the armor that your character wears in this game determines what other people in society see him as. So when he's naked, they see him as like a drone, basically, like a security drone. If he's wearing military armor, it's concealing his face, and so people just assume he's a soldier. You have to dress like the job that you're trying to pull off, basically. And so there's a little bit of almost like a Shadowrun-style heist thing going on as well. Let's go contact the AGI researchers, I guess. Oral Integrated is threatening AGI researchers that helped you in the past. If they don't provide a way to infiltrate your mind and take control of you, they and their families will be killed. I can make a decision here where I can kill every single AGI researcher that knows how to infiltrate my mind, or I can be friends with them. Let's be evil. Let's kill them all. There we go. We'll just like murder every AGI researcher that we can possibly find. There's also something new over here that I can look at. Shelter coordinators are slow. We need to have 100 engineering skill to fix that. My tech bot might have 100 engineering skill. I don't know. Oh yeah, did I mention there's a quest chain that makes it so that like your AI is attached to cats? And like the ways they can be used to manipulate human beings. This isn't one of those games that's like all serious all the time. There's a bunch of interesting storylines in front of this title that you can play around with and like run down like weaponizing bees to wipe out humanity and stuff. Let's go do the kitty quest. I gotta be a nickel bot? Okay. The entire area around these towers are crawling with slumlords, vicious enforcers of the corporate property owners. These are machine gun augmented humans with reflexes much closer to your own. You do not want to get into a fight with them if you can avoid it. There are very few androids in this part of town due to the extreme poverty, but you do still see nickel bots around. As expected, the slumlords completely ignore your nickelbot. Cats are everywhere, as are poor humans. You seem to have all the time you could ever want at the moment. Befriend the creatures! Oh, it's gonna take 9 turns for us to befriend cats. Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. All good things come to those that wait. I need to deactivate a robot so that I can get a technician out because I can't seem to find mine. Yeah, I can't find mine. I think I have too many combat units. So let's get a technician. We'll put him right there. And that's going to force me to get rid of one of my units. I will get rid of 8 AV to make room for the technician. What is his... His engineering is 325, so that should be good enough to complete most of the objectives out here. Let's go check out the spaceport. Why have rocket launches and landings stopped since you became sapient, and is this secession actually related to you? Hiding a technician away in an empty rocket bay should go unnoticed despite your extreme lack of security clearance. Perhaps from this vantage it can learn something about what's going on. Okay, so we'll have him hide for 6 turns. And you may have noticed we have minions now. These little guys right here are human social workers. We hired them with our apartment complexes to go out and find all the homeless in the city and relocate them over to here. Whether that's for nefarious purposes or for good purposes, it kind of depends on how you play the game. It's going to be your call. So we've got design full-time VR pods. And what's that other building right there? My shelter coordinators are slow. All right, well, I can't deal with that for at least another couple turns till some of these events resolve, so... The technician reconnecting with your main consciousness is a relief for both of you. You had to briefly split your consciousness to go undetected. Your smaller self merging back on in doesn't have definitive answers, but it has a strong suspicion the spaceport is shut down because of you. There are currently no Space Nation envoys in the city, and Space Nations are being denied access to land. You couldn't hear what Vorsiber was telling them, but you got snatches of radio conversations between envoys in low orbit, and they sound apoplectic. Angering the envoys in this way makes no sense. It contradicts all of the common wisdom about how high executives are expected to act. While sitting in a single cramped technician body and bored by a lack of stimuli, your smaller self did have a stroke of semi-related inspiration. You really should build another aerospace hangar because you'll need all the morphologic lattices you can get your hands on. You can't fault its or your logic. More flying vehicles faster, and that's a good thing. We also got an upgrade, so it increased our unit cap for flying vehicles, so that's pretty cool. And then I need this technician to come back over here. Oh. Never mind. It appears as though they caught my technician and he got promptly murdered. Fair enough. Let's just build another one. That's the nice thing about disposable robots, is I can always get more. Alright, so we've got another robot up and running. Get rid of the unit menu real fast. And then we'll go in here. Shelter coordinators are simply self-appointed volunteers from amidst the sheltered humans. They're moving around the city on foot, spreading the good news of your free housing to the homeless and helping them move in. This is inefficient and only reaches the homeless. What about the people in the slums? If you want to get as many people into your VR day use seats as possible, the homeless population is not large enough on its own. Okay, let's design an automated alternative. So it cost us 30 compassion in order to get that done, but it gave us a project called Solve Homelessness. Nice. Okay, I'll take that. It also increased our steward cap. What is this right here? Crime in your housing. Your housed humans are both the targets and perpetrators of various low-level crimes. It's drawing the attention of local gangs. Okay, we kind of need to take care of that. I will send a security robot over here. Where are my security robots at? My security robots are all sticks to the wind right now. Your housed humans are both the targets. Okay, we already read that. So I can post a scary guard, a visually intimidating android, and we pass that check. So let's put him in there. And that should fix up that problem so that we don't have to deal with crime or anything else for a couple of turns. And then full-time VR pods. Oh, so what I'm doing here is I'm creating full dive VR centers, making the humans think I'm making them happier and more entertained, but instead what I'm doing is I'm siphoning off a piece of their brain to power my consciousness while they're inside the actual VR rig. Ugh, that's kind of nasty, bro. All right, I respect it. Criminals got the idea. This experience gives you an idea for a new shotgun. It doesn't have the weapon disruption of the TS-29, but it inflicts a lot of fear damage. Enemies have both HP and morale. You can make them flee and run by being overly terrifying. So I'm guessing those are some kind of hyper-painful bullets that make people scream a lot or something like that, and they think that they're dying, but they're not. They're just in catastrophically tooth-gnashing pain. But this is Heart of the Machine. This is one of those games that is highly, highly unique, and it's an easy recommendation if you're into anything 4X related like Stellaris or, you know, Civilization or whatever else. It's an interesting sort of narrative story RPG branching path take on a 4X game that takes place in a unique universe with unique casts of characters, unique ideas, and that makes sense because it's an Arkan game. That's what they do, is they make relentlessly weird stuff that's almost always good. For right now, I like the game, but I'll probably hold off until 1.0 comes comes out so that I can play the entire thing, because I like the early access very, very much, and I don't want to burn it out before it gets here. The only downside to this game that I've noticed in the 4 hours or so that I've spent with it is just the learning curve. That's pretty much it. This game has a considerable learning curve. However, the tutorial, which is called Prologue and Chapter 1, it'll take you a couple hours to play through that, but you will know everything you need to know by the time you get through that. And it is a good tutorial, except for every now and again it won't let you bypass turns until you read things that are inside a codex. There's a codex here, yeah. And it took me a minute to figure out why it's not letting me bypass turns. You have to click on every single codex entry before it goes on in, which I wasn't a big fan of. But once I figured that out, it was easy peasy, smooth sailing. I think the game is pretty cool, and there's not really anything like it out there. It is a very unique strategy experience. I'll see y'all later. Thanks for stopping on in, and that's all I got for you, folks. Bye.